today. So good afternoon, my name is Amanda Jarvis and I'm with the Virginia SBDC network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 27 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one consulting services are available at no charge. Today's bootcamp, Managing Your WordPress Website, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted today, but if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session. Cameron Nelson is the Chief Digital Advisor for Virginia SBDC and Central Virginia SBDC. Mr. Nelson has over 18 years of experience in technology and is a senior tech consultant in Silicon Valley, helping Fortune 500 companies improve their digital marketing and e-commerce. At the same time, he founded several tech companies, including a software service website for tree preservation and a blockchain platform for nonprofits. Cameron is accomplished in language, culture, has an MBA and MA, and believes new technology products have the ability to shape our world for the better. Please join me in welcoming our presenter for today, Cameron Nelson.
Thanks for the introduction. And hello, everybody. Welcome to How to Manage Your WordPress Website. We've got a great turnout today, so I'm very excited. I'm going to be presenting this at a fairly high level to give everybody a good understanding of WordPress and the basics of managing a WordPress website. There's a ton more detail that we can go into with specific use cases. So I encourage you, if you have any questions, to save those for the end, and we should have 15 or 20 minutes to get to as many questions as possible. Also, if I'm not able to get to your question today, or you'd like to talk to me one-on-one, my email address is here on the screen. It'll also be provided to you after the meeting, and I encourage you to reach out to me and set up a one-on-one meeting. So let's jump right into it. We have 3 goals for the presentation today. The first one is to discover what WordPress is and should you be using it for your business. Because WordPress is one of the biggest and best, in my opinion, website building platforms, but it's not the only one. So I want to make you aware of the alternatives out there. Second, we're going to show you how to set up your WordPress website by looking and finding your WordPress theme to start with. And third, we're going to look at how to customize your WordPress website, how to manage your pages, how to manage your plugins, and how to run updates. So first off, what is WordPress and should you be using it? So the overarching theme is that websites are a critical part of your business today. And so you do need a robust website if you're going to have an effective online business. Even many businesses that don't sell online still need a website for advertising their services and attracting new customers. And WordPress actually started over 15 years ago as a blogging platform, back when that was really popular, but it's evolved a lot since then into a very widely used and robust platform. So you can think of WordPress kind of like an operating system, right? Think of it like Windows or Mac OS. It's a platform like that that has a good technology underpinnings to help you build your website on that platform. And now WordPress, like any operating system, you're going to learn how you're going to have some work to do if you've never used it before, as far as learning about its menus and its interface. And that's what I'm going to start with today, showing you that stuff. But it's not really going to be a problem. Most people can pick this up within 3 or 4 hours of watching some tutorial videos, watching a presentation like this, and digging around and tinkering. So there's a few really big benefits for using WordPress as your website platform. WordPress is widely supported. So the team and the organization behind WordPress is a nonprofit organization of mostly developers that are constantly updating WordPress to be compatible with the latest and greatest technology, whether it's in smartphones, tablets, or desktop computers. Your WordPress website will be supported on any device anywhere in the world. Secondly, multiple users can contribute to your website because you can create unique user logins for different staff members or different contractors or people assisting with parts of your website to give you good security and control over who's changing what and have a good log and record of when changes were made. Third, you can choose your own web host. So the web host is the computer somewhere in the world that is storing your website files. And when a visitor to your website goes there, the host is what serves up the files to them. Some of the biggest hosts are Google and GoDaddy, but there are literally hundreds of hosts that you can choose from, and almost every host in the world supports WordPress, the WordPress platform. So that's good. It gives you that flexibility to choose your own. Next, plugins in WordPress add a lot of functionality and enhancements to an already really robust ecosystem. So if you have a website, and let's just say you built an e-commerce website for selling your products, and a few months or a year later, you decide you really want a new feature of the website that's not there already. Maybe you want to have a video player, or maybe you want to have a blog, or maybe you want to have an e-commerce shopping cart and you didn't before. You can usually find a plugin that's going to add that functionality for free or at a very minimal cost. And you won't need to hire a developer to develop a lot of enhancements. So the plugins are a very quick and simple way to add functionality. It's a great benefit of WordPress. The next is that WordPress is built for search engine optimization in mind. So like I said, WordPress is maintained and updated constantly by a team of really talented developers, and it's a nonprofit organization. And they are always looking at what the search engines like Google, Yahoo, and Bing are doing as far as their algorithms to rank websites. And they're ensuring that your website will be compatible at a basic level with the latest SEO changes. So that's really good for peace of mind. SEO can get a lot more complicated. If you want to, you can spend more time and money to tweak that. But just know by default, WordPress has you covered with the basics. The next benefit is that WordPress offers many customizable themes. You can think of a theme as a starting point to build your website on. There are thousands of themes. There's many that are free and some that you pay for a small annual fee or a one-time purchase. And by selecting a WordPress theme, it gives you a really quick jumpstart on building your website on WordPress. It basically does about 80% of the work for you there. So having that selection of themes is a great benefit. And lastly, most web hosts like Google or GoDaddy offer a one-click install. So you don't need to be a developer to actually get WordPress up and running. There's usually just a button that says, do you want to use WordPress, yes or no? And it's a one-click install for that. So managing WordPress websites overall require around 2 to 5 hours per month of your time if you're going to be managing it. This will be installing updates, solving bugs or performance issues, and then you're also going to be updating content like pictures and text. So you need to budget for this amount of time each month. You can't simply build a website in WordPress or any other platform and expect to build it and never have to maintain it. So expect 2 to 5 hours in WordPress. Now, if you don't have this much time, you can always hire a professional freelancer or a small firm to help you develop and maintain a website. But if you also want to develop your own website on a simpler platform, there's a few alternatives like Squarespace and Wix. And these are the two most popular alternatives to WordPress, which are both more simple to use. However, they do not give you the same flexibility and customizability. You won't get themes, you won't get plugins on Squarespace and Wix. So while you can build a very simple business website on those two platforms, for most businesses here and most people on this call, WordPress will be the best choice for you because it can really grow with your business and you can stick with WordPress for 3 years or 5 years in the future without really having to make any changes to your website because it has the flexibility of the plugins and other features. So WordPress is always evolving, and I wanted to give you an update on some of the latest changes. WordPress 5.8 recently was released, and they're improving some of the editing functionality. You see here is a screenshot of an editing interface, and the full site editing enables WordPress users to edit pages and content with drag and drop blocks. So they're always trying to improve the interface and make the experience easier, especially for first-time users like many of you. And also, like I mentioned, that WordPress is always improving its SEO optimization for your websites automatically. Google in early 2022 updated how their websites are searched and indexed with Core Web Vitals. And WordPress is also on board with this and has already updated their code appropriately. So you can ensure that your web page is being indexed and searched correctly to give you the best SEO ranking possible. I get asked a lot, what's the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com? And I think this is a bit overly confusing because of the way that's been marketed and branded online. So I want to go through the differences. WordPress.org gives you full theme support. So any of the WordPress themes you might find when you Google WordPress themes, you'll be able to use on WordPress.org. Whereas on WordPress.com, they don't allow you to use most of those themes. They give you a small selection that you can choose from only. It's like a few dozen as opposed to a few thousand. So it's a pretty big deal. You don't have access to all the really great themes on WordPress.com like you do on WordPress.org. On WordPress.org, you can have access to all the plugins. So the plugins are like an app store, essentially, for your website where you can add these functionality through plugins. WordPress.com does not give you any plugin access. So it's a pretty big negative. WordPress.org, you pay the hosting fees, which are typically $6 to $8 per month. And on WordPress.com, they host it for free, up to 3 gigabytes of storage. So that's a plus for WordPress.com. WordPress.org gives you full e-commerce freedom. You can have a shopping cart. You can sell products or services or subscriptions. On WordPress.com, you cannot sell with e-commerce. So this right here basically makes WordPress.com a non-starter for most of you who are interested in selling products online through the website. WordPress.org gives you complete branding freedom. Many Fortune 500 companies even have built on WordPress.org, and you would never know because it's not branded, it's built on WordPress. However, on WordPress.com, they do put their logo on your website. You have to pay extra to remove that, so it looks a bit less professional. WordPress.org gives you all SEO features and control to fine-tune your SEO, whereas WordPress.com just gives you limited SEO control. WordPress.org gives you full access to different analytical tracking platforms like Google Analytics or Facebook Pixel, whereas WordPress.com only gives you very limited access to looking at your analytics. Now, WordPress.org, you do the maintenance. So again, you put in those 2 to 5 hours a month of updating plugins or solving minor bugs or tweaking pages. Where on WordPress.com, they are updating the plugins and ensuring that, especially with the plugin side of things, that everything's updated automatically. So for, I think, 99% of you, WordPress.org is the way to go here. WordPress.com really only is applicable if you are not trying to sell online and you're happy with the much more limited control they give you over customizing your website. So if you settled on WordPress.org, which I highly recommend, your next step is going to be to find your theme. So again, your theme is your starting template for your website. The theme's important to select based on the user flow and the user experience you want, the colors and the fonts. And those things are embedded in the theme, and they're pretty hard to change after the fact. So as you look through themes, try to find a theme that really speaks to you and your business, but also your target market. And there's 3 places I recommend you go to look for themes. The first is the official WordPress website for themes. They have a selection. They're quite bare bones themes. They don't have a lot of features or a lot of pages. So most of you will want to go look at these other 2 options to find a more robust theme. A website I like a lot is Themeforest.net, and they have a selection of thousands of WordPress themes that are very high quality from developers all over the world in many different industries. So if you have a bakery or an auto repair shop or a nail salon or whatever, you can search for a theme that's meant for that business type. And often you're going to find it. And then it gives you a good jumpstart on building your website based on a theme that was kind of custom tailored for that type of business. Of course, you can tweak themes quite a bit once you have installed one. So if you want to change things around, you do have that ability. And the last one on this list is ColorLib. ColorLib is another great collection of very professionally made modern WordPress websites that you will have good success with. They're updated frequently and are running all the latest code to ensure their compatibility and the latest safety measures as well. So if you've decided to go with WordPress.org and you've got your theme installed, then you're going to be spending a lot of time looking at this, which is your WordPress dashboard. This is where you interact with your website as an administrator, where you make those changes. Now, anybody who's ever seen a WordPress website before will be immediately familiar with this layout, but for most of you, this is probably new. So I'm going to walk you through the main sections that you need to be aware of, because not all the sections on the left are as important as others. So the most important items here include the media, the pages, appearance, plugins, users, and settings. Now just keep in mind that you do have to properly set up all of these sections before your website will be ready to be viewed. We're going to walk through quickly how these pages, how you update these sections and what you do in them here. And then I'm going to go and jump into a live demo with a live website to show more details of these pages. So the first one is the media section. This is a pretty simple section where you upload any images that you want to be displayed on your website. Some themes are going to have this populated with their own default or generic images, which is fine. You can just upload your own here, and you can either leave or delete the ones that came with the theme. That's up to you. And then when you're ready, you will swap out images on your web page for ones you've uploaded here. And I'm going to show you how to do that part in a moment. But this is where you go to add new images to the website. The next section is page management. This is a very important section where you're going to edit the actual content of different pages. So by default, your theme is going to have a selection of pages, something like this. It is going to vary a bit from theme to theme, but this has the basic about, blog, contact, home, menu, and a privacy policy page. Not all these pages are active. For example, a privacy policy is just a draft, which means, you know, it's editable, but it's not visible on the website, which is fine. You might have a lot of pages in draft mode. And the home page here is the most important. This is the first page people go to when they type in your domain name. And if you were to accidentally delete the home page, your website would not be visible anymore. So all of these pages are optional to have except for the home page. So that is the only mandatory one here. The next section of the dashboard is theme management, which you get to from appearance. The main thing you do here is you can see the installed themes you have. In this case, there are 3 installed themes, and you can see which one is active. And this example, the one called Canape is active because it says active there at the bottom of the image for that theme. You will then also be able to import and activate a theme. If you purchase it on like Themeforest or another website and you have that theme, it's going to be given to you as a zip file. And on this section, you'll be able to upload that zip file and install that theme and start using it on your website. I'm going to walk through that as well in the live demo just after this. The next section is plugins. In the plugins section, you view your installed plugins and you can search to find new plugins. You'll also have the opportunity to update plugins. You'll see that there are 2 of the plugins in the example here have a yellow banner that says there's a new version. You can update it. The advantage of updating plugins when you see an update is that it's going to ensure your plugins are compatible with latest changes happening on the internet elsewhere, and also that you're using the latest security measures, that you're as protected as you can be against hacking and any stealing of data that could be on your website. So I always recommend if there's an update that you will click that button to update. It's usually the best idea. The next section is user management. This is just a very simple section where you can add new users and define their role if you want to. So if you have, yourself as the administrator, you should always keep your own administrator username and password unique to you and not share that. If you have a contractor or a consultant or an employee or friend or family member who's going to help you on the website, you can create their own username. These are free to create. You can have, I think, up to 99, so you're not going to run out. And this way you can just see who's making changes when, and you can also revoke people's access just by deleting a username. So it's a very efficient way to maintain the security and integrity of your website. And the last section that's important is this one called general settings. Here you're going to find some general settings that are kind of foundational for the website. These are not dependent on the theme you select. So you want to make sure that these are set up properly. Things like your time zone and your site title that will appear in the browser bar at the top. Generally, these will be set okay by your host, but you want to just double check that everything is actually properly configured here before you move on and launch your website. So that concludes the formal part of this presentation. And for the remainder, I want to jump over to this live demo website here, which is one that we worked on building for a client that's in the restaurant industry. So you'll see that this one is called Khadijah's Kitchen, and it's a simple website with a logo, a message. We have some images here. We have a menu, which actually links to a third-party website, Grubhub, for purchasing. So this is not a full e-commerce website because it does the purchasing through Grubhub, and a simple video. So it's a basic business website. One thing I want to point out here is at the top, there is this menu, which only appears because I'm logged in to WordPress as the administrator. So once you log in using the username and password you'll set up with your host, you'll have access to these options. Now, what I'm going to do is click on Dashboard. And we're going to jump right back to what we were looking at in the slideshow, but this is the live dashboard for the website. So I'm going to go to media, and here you see, again, the images that are used on the website. We have a couple of videos, but mostly this is where you upload images, even things like your logo. To add a new image is very easy. You just click the button at the top that says Add New, and you can simply drag an image file here, or click the button to select them on your computer. You do need to upload any image files here first before you can swap them out on your website. And keep in mind that there's usually going to be a maximum upload size. That's usually defined by the host, and 32 megabytes, like this one says, is pretty common. If you were trying to upload an image that's of more than 32 megabytes, that's a pretty serious problem, because that's a very gigantic image for a website. So just as a ballpark, I think images should be kept to under 1 megabyte, and ideally they will be even less than that, something in the realm of 200 or 300 kilobytes. So if you take some photos from your smartphone or your DSLR camera, they're likely going to be very big, and you're going to want to shrink them or compress them before you upload them here to your media library. You can do that using a program like Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom, or if you don't have one of those, you can simply Google free online image compression tool and pick one of the many options that will show up, and that will allow you to shrink your images, which won't really reduce the quality, but will drastically reduce the file size. And again, under 1 megabyte is critical, but ideally only 200 or 300 kilobytes per image that will go on your website. The next section is pages. Again, we have a selection of pages here. At least one here is in draft mode, which means obviously it's just in draft, it's not visible. The home page is the most critical one. You would never want to delete this by clicking trash, because that will make the website not appear. So you have a couple of options to edit pages. The theme that we're using here for this website has the ability to edit or quick edit. You see two options. Different themes might also have a third editing option, so it can be a bit confusing sometimes. That third editing option often is called Edit with Elementor. An Elementor is an editing interface some themes choose to use, but you're always going to have edit and quick edit. If you don't have a third option, that's fine. You can just do the edit option. So I'm going to click on the edit option to show you how it works. So what we pulled up here is a version of the home page, which is pretty close to what the website visitors will see. Except here I'm in a WYSIWYG interface, which means what you see is what you get. So I am able to just type in changes to the text or the images. And when I click the update button in the upper right-hand corner, that will be made live immediately on the website. So, anybody can manage this kind of an interface. It's not hard to change text or images. To change an image, you can simply click on it and click on the button here that says replace image. And you can select your media library, and then you can now see the images you have in the media library. Select one to replace that image with. So again, it's a very simple interface for editing elements on the home page. And depending on the theme you select, you might have other options for editing, but this is the most common one, the most WordPress websites will have by default. And I didn't save these changes, and I'm getting a warning message, but that's fine because this is a live website and I don't want to make these changes. So I'm going to cancel those changes. But making a change to any website is the same. You just hover over it here and you click the edit button. The quick edit button has a few different options. It's generally not that useful, but you can here change the title, which is what appears at the top in the tab in the browser if you want to have a title change. But that's pretty much the only thing you will do in the quick edit section. Most of what you'll do is in the edit, or if you have an option that says edit with Elementor, that's the editing interface that you would most likely use. The comment section next is not used in most websites. This is mostly just full of spam, and this is a throwback from when WordPress was used as a blogging platform. So unless you're using it as a blog, you won't need to go into comments and worry about that. The appearance tab is where you look for themes or upload a theme you've downloaded from a third-party website. So you can see here we've got 6 themes that are installed, and this one theme called Canape is active. If I want to add a new theme that I have downloaded, I'll click the button at the top that says Add New. And they're going to show me, this is a WordPress.org list of themes they would recommend, but you might find a theme here you like, but generally they don't have a big selection. So you will click Upload Theme, And when you have found your theme on a third-party website like Themeforest, they will give it to you in a zip file. You simply find the zip file that you downloaded, upload it here, and click install. And then your website will be running on that theme. And I recommend that you don't try to switch themes too often. It's quite a pain, and it often requires a lot of manual work as far as fixing little errors that take place when WordPress tries to transfer text from one layout to a completely different layout. It never really works smoothly. So spend more time picking the right theme up front and just run with that theme for at least several years for your business website, and don't plan on switching themes too frequently, because that does involve a lot of time spent. The next section on the left is the plugins section. And this is one of the most powerful features of WordPress, where it's going to allow you to install plugins that add new functions or features to your default theme and what it offers. So for example, you might have found the best theme. You love the interface, the layout, the colors, it's all great, except maybe you really wanted a contact form, and that theme for some reason just doesn't have the page for a contact form. You're able to find a contact form here in the plugins and add it to the website pretty easily. You don't need to be a developer to use plugins. So that's a big advantage. If you want to add a new plugin for something, you can click the button that says add new. And again, WordPress is going to show you some featured and popular and different categories of plugins. I never recommend you just browse through plugins and install ones that look interesting or useful, because you're going to end up with a lot of plugins which can slow down your website. The more plugins you have, the more code is loading, and the slower your website can get. And also, maintaining and configuring multiple plugins is time consuming. So you only want to use a plugin that's solving a specific business purpose for your website, like having a contact form or having an e-commerce shopping cart ability that's not in your default theme. So let's say you want to find an e-commerce plugin. You can just search for e-commerce, and there are, looks like 1,036 e-commerce plugins, or those that come up in this search at least. So this is where a lot of people get stumped, is there's too many options. And for any kind of plugin you search for, there are going to be a lot of options. If you don't have a recommendation from a friend or a developer who says this is a good plugin to use for your website, then what I'd recommend you do is you look for the plugin that has the most number of reviews and the highest overall rating here. So in this case, for the e-commerce, it's Woocommerce is the #1 highest rated. And I know for a fact that this is the one I use a lot and recommend for businesses as well. But if you're searching for something else, like a video plugin or some other thing, then go ahead and look for the ones that come up with the best number of ratings, and you'll be pretty good to go with that. You can click the button on any of these that says more details, and it's going to pull up kind of a description of what it's doing. Look through several different plugins, try to find the one that seems to be meeting the needs the closest. Many of these are going to be free, and a few of them do have a paid tier that could be monthly or annual. So it just depends on the plugin that you're using. And lastly, going back here to the main plugins page real quick, you'll see that I have multiple plugins with updates, and they're called out here in these orange banners. So if this is your website and you see updates available, go ahead and just click the Update Now button. It's an automatic process, just takes a few seconds. And the risk is if you don't update it, eventually something will stop working or stop working properly at least. So always update your plugins. The next section is the users. Here we only have one user for this website. It's a small business, and the role is an administrator. So you will always have at least one user, which should be yours as the administrator. And it's very easy to add new users. You just click the button at the top for Add New, give it a username, email, and a password, and create that user. You can also pick a role. So if you want another administrator, you can give them that ability. If you want them to edit pages or different levels of access, you can select that right here. And like I said, adding new users is free, and there's a very large cap. I think it's 100. And the last section that's important is under settings and general. Here we have general settings that are really foundational for the entire website. These won't change based on any theme or plugins you have installed. So you want to look through these, make sure everything's set up to your liking, the dates, the time, and your site title for the overall website. If that all looks good, then you can click Save Changes there at the bottom. So that really summarizes the WordPress dashboard quickly. There's so much more detail to go into on each of these items, but what I'll do now is open it up to questions and hopefully be able to answer some of your specific questions, because that's so useful to actually give you those specific answers. And again, if there's anything that I'm not able to get to today, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be happy to meet with you one-on-one. And if you have to log off now, thanks for joining, and I hope this was useful.
Great, thank you so much, Cameron. We do have a lot of questions, so I'll get right to it. I do have somebody requesting, before you close the dashboard there, somebody has asked, could you show how to add images and/or blocks?
Sure. Let me tackle the images first. That's going to be the simplest. So by clicking on Media and clicking Add New, and you again, just if you have most images you're going to use are a JPEG or a PNG. JPEG is about 95% of all images on websites, or JPEGs, JPG extension. The only time you'll need a PNG format is if you really want it to be a transparent image, have transparency behind it. And so in some cases you want that. But anyway, you select your JPEG or PNG image and it'll upload. Again, you have to keep it under that maximum file size, like I said, and if it is too big, you can always find an online compression tool just to compress that down for you. As far as adding blocks, that's a bit more complicated question. It's really quite specific depending on the theme you use. For example, if you're, I should back up, because a block is kind of like adding a new section to a page. So maybe you have a home page that has an image, a text, and an image, and you want to add a video in there. Well, there's a video element called a block you can drag into the place, and then you'll have a spot to put a video. So adding the blocks does vary depending on the theme you've selected. For example, the Elementor interface has one kind of interface for adding a block, and other website themes have different interfaces. So depending on your theme, it's going to look different. So I probably won't get into that. We don't really have the time, but if you're having trouble adding a block to your website with your theme, then reach out to me and we can probably figure that out in a one-on-one meeting.
Great, thank you. As the website is being constructed, how is it kept from being viewed by the public? And then how is the viewing enabled?
That's a great question. So in your host, whether it's Google or GoDaddy or one of the other hosts you can choose from, there's going to be what's usually called a sandbox mode. So by default, when you pay for hosting and they enable WordPress and you're looking at your own dashboard, there's going to be a button that's going to let you know that this is in a sandbox mode. And if you see that, you know it's not live. Typically, if somebody goes to your domain name, like yourbusiness.com, during that phase when it's in a sandbox mode, there'll be a default page that says, this website's under construction, something that your host provides by default. When you're ready to turn it on, you'll simply log into your host with your username and password, and there'll be a button there that's quite usually visible that says make live now or activate now, and then your website will be activated.
All right, great, thank you. Are there standard plugins that should be chosen for e-commerce or standard websites?
That's a great question. I would say no. There's really no best plugin in every category. There's so many options because there's so many different use cases and needs in different scenarios. So for your business, a plugin for a video widget or a shopping cart might be different than another business's ideal plugin. So like I said, when you see 1,000 search results, it can get a bit confusing. If you'd like to talk to someone like me who can guide you about the best plugin to use, and I'm happy to do that. Sometimes that's the best route. If you're in doubt of which type of plugin to use, then I'd be happy to talk to you.
Great, thanks. And on that note, also, I had a question about your contact info. And is it okay if I put that in the chat for everybody here? All right, I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. So you can reach Cameron at cnelson@cvsbdc.org to schedule a one-on-one session with him. Thank you. Let's see. The next question is, If you have a third-party web developer doing customization for your website and then the theme changes dramatically, apparently you can no longer update the theme to the newest version without messing up your configurations. Just a thought I want to put out there is something to be cognizant of if you have a developer who is customizing your website for you. So more of a comment than a question.
Yeah, I guess that my comment would be, you bring up a good point where updating something like a plugin, or in this case, updating your theme messed things up. And unfortunately, that happens from time to time. It's just because there's so much complexity with building a website and is linking to dozens of different websites and different resources that the developer of a theme, they're going to update the theme based on newest standards or newest SEO, lots of things. Sometimes they mess up and they have forgotten about a use case like your website and it breaks something. So yes, this happens from time to time, though it's very much the minority. It's less than 1%, I think. And the risk if you don't update things is that eventually something will definitely get broken. So yes, while it can be painful to have to fix a slip up like that when you update a plugin, it's still my recommendation to generally just to go ahead and update those.
Great, thank you. Do you have to develop your WordPress website in a specific order, such as laying out on the dashboard that you showed? If so, what sequence would you recommend?
I think the sequence that I went through from top to bottom is a good sequence, actually. Now, there's no one strict rule to this. You can jump into pages, you can jump into users first. But if you've got, let's say you're selling donuts and pastries. If you've already got a lot of photos of these donuts and pastries, you can go ahead and upload them to media. It doesn't hurt anything to just be organized, just go from top to bottom. Well, one thing I'll say that you want to do in a certain order is going to be going to the appearance section and installing the theme you've chosen. Because like I said, you don't want to build a website on one theme only to switch the theme a week later or a month later, because often switching it once you've already designed the website, put in the text and images you like, you don't want to switch themes after that because it doesn't always go smoothly. So you can upload all your media anytime you want. You can do that first, but then I would go into appearance, make sure that you activate your chosen theme, the theme you want to build the website on. After that, you're free to go to pages and edit the pages. You're free to go to users and create new users. You're free to install plugins. So hopefully that answers the question.
Great, thank you. WordPress has a multi-user edition. If the multiple websites are completely different, including different themes, can we use the multi-user edition, or should we use separate instances of WordPress, trying to have administrative ease and save on hosting cost?
That's a great question. And I actually don't have a lot of recent experience with a multi-hosting WordPress. I think the last time I saw that was over a year ago, and it's probably changed. So I'm not really up to date with the latest settings that are available with that package, or why that package would be the best or not. So I can't really give any specific guidance. But if you would like to contact me, I can do some research on that on your behalf, and we can talk through your question in a bit more detail individually.
Great, thanks. I have a couple questions about sizes and limitations. So the first one is, does WordPress.org have a limit on space for media library storage?
Yes, it has a limit, just because I think there's no service on the internet that provides an unlimited unlimited access to data storage, but the limit is always very big. I rarely have seen a case where somebody has hit some sort of a limit with images or videos they've uploaded to their WordPress website. If there is a limit, it will be set by your host, which would be Google or GoDaddy or a different host you select. So let's just say they have a 1 terabyte limit. If you were to hit a limit with the host, I'm sure they would be happy to take your money to increase the limit, right? So the limit is going to be flexible, and there's probably different tiers of storage capacity. But I think for 99% of the websites that are going to be built on WordPress, I've never even seen them hit a limit. So it's just unlikely to happen.
Great, thanks. So what size limitation is about right for videos?
That's a good question. So like I said, images should be kept to 200 or 300 kilobytes, ideally with nothing that should ever really exceed a megabyte. That's pretty much a hard limit. With videos, it's different. It depends if you want to do what resolution you want primarily, and the length. So if you're looking at like a 1-minute video for general consumption, the resolution of 1080 is a good starting point. And a 1 minute video at 1080 resolution should probably be somewhere in the realm of 10 to 20 megabytes. That would be okay, right? That's not too big for a video because it's streaming. It's not just loading like right away. It's going to stream over the course of the minute. But if you want a 4K video for 4K resolution, that's going to be significantly larger for a minute video. So it's a bit more flexible on videos because it depends on the resolution and the length. So, if you want to give me more information about this video you're thinking about, I can probably advise you on how big it should be to stream on your website. You can either do that on this chat or email me and we can follow up with that.
Great, thanks. This is on kind of reducing the sizes of an image, a question on that. To reduce the size of an image, I often just take a screenshot and it seems to work well. Is there any problems with doing it this way? Or do you have a recommendation maybe of how to resize images?
I mean, I've seen lots of ways to reduce image file sizes. I've never heard of that one, so I can add that to my list. That's pretty unique. It is pretty creative. If it works for you, there's not a problem with doing that. Your new image size will be capped at the resolution of your monitor, of course. So if you have a 1080 monitor or 4K monitor, that's going to be the new resolution of your image that you took a screenshot of. If it works, then I would say there's not a big problem with it. I do think, however, you'll get a smaller image file size if you take your original image and Google a free online image compression tool. And they're going to then reshrink that image and run it through some algorithms to make it a very small file size for you. And I'm pretty sure that would be a much smaller file size than taking your screenshot. Because when you generally take a screenshot, at least on a PC and I think on a Mac as well, they're going to save it as a super high quality JPEG. And in most cases, you can reduce the quality setting of a JPEG without even impacting the visual look of it and get a much smaller file size. So that is something the online image compression tool will do and make your file smaller. But by taking a screenshot, I think you're just getting like the maximum setting there, which is unnecessary and probably making that final image unnecessarily large for you.
Great, thank you. You mentioned spam in comments. If you have a contact form, what's the best tool for minimizing spam in that?
Great question. A few years ago, there's a standard called a CAPTCHA, pronounced various ways, but you've all seen it where you check a box to prove you're human or solve a little puzzle. So these are the methods that are implemented on websites now to make sure that it's not, you're not going to get spam from a computer somewhere. So generally, if you have a theme that has a comment section, generally the theme is going to have already programmed in a CAPTCHA like that to give you some sort of protection. However, there's certainly plugins and more advanced ways to ensure you're actually getting submissions from a human. I've seen everything from like solving a math equation to dragging puzzle pieces around to like clicking on the images that have cats in it, right? So there's different ways you can get more advanced. If you're getting a lot of spam, you can implement a more strict method of ensuring it's a human, but the most basic one is usually just a checkbox that says I'm human, and then it allows you to submit the comment. So to answer your question, yeah, there should be built in by default at a basic level, but there are more advanced levels you can implement if you need to.
Great, thanks. Would I still choose a theme if I was hiring someone to help me develop my website, or would they create the theme?
Great question. You will choose a theme. So the advantage of choosing a theme is that you might find one for free, or you might buy it for $40 or $50 or $60. But that is a far bit cheaper than hiring a developer to build a website from scratch. That would certainly be in the thousands at a minimum. So when you buy a theme, you're handing your developer 80% of the final website, and about 20% needs to be done. So some of that 20% is going to be you writing text and getting images ready. And some of that will be customizing little things here and there, because it's unlikely your theme is going to be 100% perfect kind of out of the box. So your developer, if you hire them, will be making those little tweaks that you need a developer for. Let's say you really want a video header and it just has an image header. Well, your developer can go in and make changes like that that aren't super available to just the normal user. But that's why you go with a theme, is because 80% of the work is going to be done for you.
Great, thanks. So what is a plugin and what is a widget?
Okay. Yeah, that's a great question. Widgets are kind of like a plugin, but they're specific to the theme. So let's say you found a great theme for your bakery business. The theme's gonna sometimes will have several widgets, which are just kind of optional things. The creator of that theme thought, okay, maybe this bakery business is gonna want. They're things you can kind of turn on and off, but they come with the theme and they're developed by the same people who made that theme. Now, plugins can be installed on any theme, and they're made by different developers, separate from the themes developers. So that's the main difference. Generally, people don't use widgets much because, again, their use case is kind of narrow. It's unlikely that a developer of a theme has maybe made 50 widgets that you can use. And even if they have, there's probably a plugin that does that same thing better, in my experience. It's not to say you would never use a widget. Maybe you find one that you want to enable and you like it. But in general, the plugins are a more robust ecosystem because it's drawn from developers internationally and they have very high standards. And they have millions of users in the plugins. So you're getting a lot of updates all the time. And I think that's the main difference between widgets is, they're not super relevant and they're not updated super often.
Great, thanks. I've been trying to embed an Outlook calendar into my site, and I've done it years ago, but it's not seeming to be the same process as before. Do you have any advice on how to go about doing that?
Yes. Yes, embedding an Outlook calendar, certainly the process has changed. I think it changes about every year. And again, just new standards, new code, the things change. Two ways you can go about it. One, Google, I'm sure, has a guide. Oh, sorry, you said it was the Outlook calendar. So Microsoft, I'm sure, has a guide that'll say, if you want to embed your Outlook calendar, here are the steps. Hopefully the guide's up to date. Sometimes you find guides that aren't up to date and then they're no use. But if you want to follow a guide, it'll probably give you some code to put on the web page, and the code should embed the calendar. If that's not working or it's too confusing, then you can look for a plugin. And there's plugins that were made specifically to help you embed a Microsoft Outlook calendar or a Google calendar or whatever it is. The plugin will essentially do a lot of the back-end work for you. So a plugin might be a better option. So the two options there: one, try to find the official Microsoft instructions. And if that fails, then I would just look for a plugin, embed Outlook calendar plugin. And they exist for sure. And that might help you do that faster.
Great, thank you. Will you be offering more advanced sessions?
So my advanced sessions, because anything beyond this point gets so customized for each use case and business that it's not kind of a general session to everybody, but we can meet one-on-one. We can have a video meeting like this, we can screen share, and I can get really detail oriented with answering your specific questions. So just reach out to me, we can do that.
Great, thanks. How do I add a button that someone can click to get more information, like a lengthy text?
Add a button to get more information. What was that part after that?
To get more information, like a lengthier text or something like that.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're just talking about making a button that's a hyperlink, and this hyperlink can go to another web page. Like maybe you have written a blog of 10 pages of text and that's the information, or maybe you have a PDF file or a Microsoft Word file. Any of those are fine. You can link to that file or that web page in a hyperlink, which can be obviously a clickable piece of text or a button image. So those are the main ways you would link to additional information. Hopefully that answers the question. So, and if it doesn't, let us know.
Great, thank you. Is the website that you demoed for us .org or WordPress.org or WordPress.com? And the e-commerce Woo warned that it's not compatible, or Woocommerce. So that's why they're asking which one that you were on.
Yeah, this one is built on WordPress.org. Mm-hmm. The vast majority of the 70 or 80 websites I've helped to build over the last few years have been WordPress.org. WordPress.com, like I said, isn't really relevant for this audience in general. I think that warning you got, this website's not even using e-commerce. It actually goes to Grubhub for checkout. So that warning is just being ignored because it doesn't matter. But yeah, it's probably saying something like the theme Canave that they're using is needs to be updated in order to work with WooCommerce now, something like that. But again, it's not part of the business model, so that warning doesn't matter.
Great, thanks. By e-commerce, do you mean a site where you use a basket to add your products before payment? Do I need to use e-commerce WordPress version to use a payment link like Stripe on a WordPress site?
Yes, e-commerce means the whole shopping cart. Yeah, great question. So if you want there to be a button that says, buy this now or add to your cart, and you want that to stay on your website, not be directed to a third-party website like Amazon or Grubhub or something like that, then you are taking credit card payments on your website, and that's the e-commerce part. It's that whole experience. And so, yeah, e-commerce is what most people need to enable on their website if they're going to be taking credit card payments, and then you are now a merchant, you're paying the credit card fees to the processing network, you're collecting taxes, and you're doing all of those things, as a business owner that you have to do with making sales. And I'm sorry, but remind me of the second part of the question, because I think there was another part that I kind of did not answer.
Yes. I'm trying to find no, I'm trying to find the question again. I'm sorry about that. I think
Yeah. It was kind of a two-parter, I remember, but
yeah, I think I might have already moved it over.
okay.
Oh yes. Do I need to use e-commerce WordPress version to use a payment link like Stripe?
Sure. So good question. Stripe will happily integrate onto your WordPress website and offer the checkout page for you. They're a big company and they do that. They integrate directly with your website. So they'll do the credit card processing through Stripe and it'll stay on your website. So yes, you can just use Stripe. WooCommerce is like everything it tracks your inventory. It links to QuickBooks Online for your accounting and your taxes. So WooCommerce as a plugin is a very robust e-commerce solution. Stripe also does, I think, most of the same things. So you kind of you pick one or the other. WooCommerce is popular, but if you're already using Stripe, maybe you have a brick and mortar store, you're taking credit cards, you have the Stripe swiper machine, that'll integrate your inventory and everything with your website. So you can have one payment processing solution for both physical and online orders. So it just depends on what you currently have and what would be best for you.
Great, thanks. I created a WordPress site years ago and the theme I use is no longer supported. I expect transitioning to a new theme will be a lot of work and likely to break something. Any advice for a smooth update?
Yes, I think your assumption is correct. Some things will not transition over properly. It's just because, from one theme to the next, it's not a mere one-to-one. It won't always find a destination for the original content. So what should you do? Well, I would have the original website open in one browser window and the new theme in another browser window. So you can quickly go back and forth and copy and paste text and actually remember exactly how the old web page was laid out. So while you're fixing any little bugs that cropped up on the new one, you have that old one to reference. So just having them side by side is my advice, and plan on maybe spending an hour to make sure the new one is proper in all the different pages. Hopefully it's not a process that would take longer than an hour or so.
All right. What are the top 3 problems likely to affect a basic WordPress site?
Good question. I think the top 3 are going to vary a lot between the business because each business is going to have different pages and different functionality the website's going to use. In general, though, I would say slow performance or slow loading speed, which is usually the cause because people upload a giant image file, like a 5 megabyte or 10 megabyte image file, which is way, way too big for most websites, just because that's what their cell phone gave them. They didn't shrink it. And if you have multiple image files like that, the page will be so slow. And the problem is not only it's a bad experience for users, but the search engines will look at your pages and they will test the speed. And if your page is slow on speed, they're going to give it a really bad SEO ranking, which means you're very unlikely to show up towards the top of a search result screen, which is where you need to be. So page load time, starting with images, is a big problem that I see a lot. Also, just you might have broken links. If you're a first-time builder of a website, There might be a button that maybe you have a typo in the destination link, so it's broken. So broken links is another problem. And third is if you do have a shopping cart set up and you're taking payments on your website, then it could be misconfigured. Sometimes, your destination like bank and routing number was not put in at all or put in properly, or there's some problem with the configuration of the e-commerce part, preventing you from either letting somebody complete a checkout or for you to getting the money deposited in your bank account. So if you're doing e-commerce, that's something that can trip people up as well. So hopefully, I think those are three of the biggest that I see.
Great, thanks. So I do have several questions, so I'm just gonna, they're about the same thing, so I'm gonna try to summarize it up. But essentially, there's a few people who want to know more about linking your social media, your Facebook to your web page. Do you have any advice on that?
That's a great question. I think in general, if you are active on social media, you should definitely link to those pages on your website. Your website here that you're building is kind of your business's core online. It's like the home place for your business is your .com, your domain name. So you definitely want your social media pages to be associated with your business's base online, and also so people can find those pages easily. So some of the best strategies of doing that is at the bottom of your page in the footer to include links to your social media. So you probably, and nowadays people will just have an icon, a little Facebook icon, little Instagram, little Twitter, whatever you're using. And just by having little icons down there that are links to your pages is the simplest way to address that. You can get more complicated if you want to have a live feed from your Facebook page auto-populate on your website, or your Instagram feed of your images. It can automatically populate on your website. So in some cases, that's a good idea. If you want to show a lot of interactivity between your social media and your website, you can have these live feeds, which again, they update automatically. You don't have to do it, you just put them there. So in some cases, I've seen that be pretty efficient as well. But at the minimum, you do need in the footer those links.
Great. All right. Well, I think we are kind of out of time for the day. We have a few more questions. So like I mentioned, I've shared Cameron's contact info with a few people who are asking, but I'll say it again, and I put it in the chat there. You can reach Cameron at cnelson@cvsbdc.org. Somebody also asked if we're going to be sharing the recording, and yes, you're all going to get a link to the recording from today and to the slides. So if we didn't get to your questions today, definitely reach out. Thank you, Cameron. I just want to let everyone know that this webinar and other SBDC resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. So you can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. Thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you at our next session.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good day. Bye-bye.